most important lab tests that you can run for your health, for yourself, on your health, chronic disease. So MVX stands for Metabolic Vulnerability Index, and it came out in January 6th of 2025. So it's really new, and not many people know about it. If they know about it, it's only because they've been listening to me, and I was part of getting it active for the general public. Before I got it activated for the public, it was only available through the government for research that they do. And so MVX measures 6 factors. These are the 6 factors upon which chronic disease and mortality grows. It's like the soil for chronic disease and mortality. And when I was looking through the original research that came out in February of 2023 about MVX Plus, they have this graphic, which maybe I can pull it up and show it to you on my. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to do this right now. I can get it on my screen here. Oh, look, I just did it. So this graphic is showing you how there are people who have first of all they're healthy, then they have risk factors, and then they get a disease, and the disease could be cancer, older age, chronic kidney disease, congestive heart failure, and then atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And then they get the metabolic vulnerability risk factors going up. Those are malnutrition and inflammation. But this graphic is backwards. In the publication, this graphic is backwards. And it really should be more about the other way around. So yeah, I need to send this to the one of the guys that I've talked to who published this. And it's not about disease coming first and then the mortality risk factors coming second. It's more about these 6 risk factors that are showing up in this MVX Plus. They come first. Then you get various diseases. And it could be rheumatoid arthritis, could be cancer, could be heart disease. But if these 6 factors were low, which you can fix them all with nutrition and supplements, no diet, no drug fixes these 6 factors. You have to fix them the natural way and heal the body up. So once and this MVX Plus test gives you a score of 1 to 100, which is amazing. So you want your score to be low. And so I have some people, their scores are in their 70s, and the highest I've ever seen is 78. And this woman had metastatic breast cancer, and it's not good at all. So if your MVX Plus score is in the 70s, it's not a good sign. But if your score is in the 20s, you're going to live a long time. And there's actually a graphic that shows you the longevity right here. I'm going to pull this up on my... Sorry, on TikTok, you can't see all these. But with this graphic right here, you can see how if your MVX score is 55, then you have a 20% cumulative mortality incidence in the next 5 years. Right here. If your score is 70, it's 50% cumulative mortality incidence. So MVX Plus measures your mortality / longevity better than ApoB, LDL, and how fit you are, VO2 max, grip strength, muscle strength, and all kinds of other factors, telomere length that people talk about. So MVX Plus is the best way, and it's brand new, the best way to determine how long you're going to live. Now, it only tells you in the next 5 years. So if your score is really low, let's say your score is 35, your chance of dying in the next 5 years is 1% or 2%. And just want to keep it down. You can keep it down. You're in charge of how long you're going to live. And the other thing is age is not such a risk factor. So if you're 90 years old and your MVX score is 80, that's not good at all. You probably won't live to be another, year or two. But if your MVX score is 50 and you're 80 years old or 90 years old, you're going to live much longer. So you can't just say, oh, that person's old, they're going to die soon. No, if their MVX score is low, then they're going to be in really good shape and they can live a bit longer. But now my score was 55 back in January, and now it's 26. So I brought it down, and I had a couple of factors that were inhibiting and keeping my score high. And the first one was a gas leak at my house, which I've talked about plenty of times. But the gas leak caused terrible pain in my heart and lungs. It was such a disaster. I ended up going to the ER in May of 2024 with crushing chest pain, 8 out of 10, left arm numb, left jaw numb, couldn't breathe. All these terrible symptoms, left leg numb. I thought I was having strokes. And they couldn't find anything. After 5 hours, they kicked me out. And I wanted drugs. I wanted blood pressure drugs, but they wouldn't give it to me. And so 10 days later, I started taking B1, high doses of B1. And within 2 weeks, I was 95% better. And I did pretty good all summer and fall. And then I found the gas leak December 7th of 2024. I mean, that's 6 months ago. And that was the cause of my terrible health, the gas leak. And then, and back in 2016, I had similar symptoms, and it was from toxic mold. So my office was moldy, terribly moldy. And for about 6 years, I lived in a moldy house too. So what I did in the spring, actually in February, March, I did 18 days in a sauna. I spent more than 4 hours a day for 18 days. And then the first day, I could smell chemicals coming out of my nose, like I was detoxing chemicals. And then the second day, I felt terrible. And then I recovered, and then I'm doing so much better. So anyway, so I detoxed all that gas out. And I'm sure I still have a little bit of work to do. I can run urine tests and stuff to find out where I'm at with that. So where was I going to go with this? Oh, yeah. The gas leak was why my score was 55. Now, that was January 13th. But if I had done MVX May of last year when I went to the ER, I'm sure it would be 80. Because I was ready to die. I felt so bad. Okay, and then 4 weeks later, and I could show you my scores, which is right here. Sorry, TikTok, you're not seeing these scores, but there's 55 right there. And then there's 31 over here. And that was 4 weeks later. So my score dropped 24 points in 4 weeks, which is phenomenal. And when I told the researchers who developed MVX Plus, they couldn't believe it. They were like, I need to learn from you. And I was like, yeah, you do. We're talking MD PhDs out of Duke, and they're working for LabCorp in research and development. So, and then after that, so I can get rid of this. I'm going to exit out of that. Okay, and then my third and fourth one I'm going to show you right now. It went up to 39. So it was 55 and 31 and then 39. Why did it go up to 39? Because I had a sinus infection. So it picks up it picks up any infection, acute or chronic. It picks up trauma. It picks up the toxicity. It'll pick up nutritional malnutrition. It'll pick up B1 deficiency, protein deficiency, and it'll pick up mitochondrial dysfunction. So these factors are the most important factors. And what's really interesting, okay, and before I get rid of the screen, then my fourth score was 29. Then my fifth score was 26, and that was a couple weeks ago. So you can get it lower. I know a guy, he's also a healthcare practitioner. He's like a health coach. So he's not a licensed, chiropractor, MD, PhD, whatever. He's a health coach. And he's 59 years old. His score is 25, which is phenomenal. And then I have a 9-year-old boy patient. His score is 57, which is terrible. So age doesn't really matter. Like I'm saying, like if your score is high, no matter what your age is, get it down. And I have a couple. There's a guy, he's 72 and his wife is 68. Their scores are in the 20s. And I think it's like 20, his is like 24, which is, in the top 10 out of 330 people that I've seen. And then his wife's is like 31, which is phenomenal. And they're 68 and 72 years old. So they're really healthy. They're not patients. And I emailed them, said, what are you doing to get your score so low? And they said back in like 2022, they really started kicking their health into high gear and taking supplements and exercising, and they change your diet around. So yeah, so that's what it's all about. So the 6 factors of MVX, they line up with my 7-step blueprint to optimal health. This graphic is what I made in 2018. So in all my years, 30 years now of being in natural healthcare and helping people only with diet and supplements, no drugs, no surgery, not even exercise, to be honest. I'm not like a fitness trainer. I'm not a dietitian. I don't make up recipes. I don't do meal planning. if people say, what should I eat? I say, eat more meat. That's kind of what I'll say. I'd kind of leave it at that. But eating more meat is in step 1 of my 7-step blueprint to optimal health, because MVX measures how much protein you have in your body, like amino acids. And then these 6 the other factors of MVX line up with my 7-step blueprint. So one of the factors is called glyc, which is a multi-marker, meaning it's actually 4 things put together. And they are associated with inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, fibrinogen, LP-PLA2, which is a terrible cardiovascular atherogenic marker. And, any kind of marker that shows you inflammation, it's associated with glyc. So the way you bring out glyc is you reduce infections and inflammations. And that's steps 4 and 5 out of my 7-step blueprint. And then another marker is called small HDL particles count, and that's dealing with toxicity. So that's step 6 in my 7-step blueprint. And so I can go on. I got a slide presentation that I made for doctors. It's like 110, 120 slides, going through all the ins and outs of how to read it and then what to do, and further lab testing. And there's lab testing for inflammation called the hypercoagulation panel. And yeah, Vicky Neely, hi. I was just talking about you. Yeah, we're the 72 and 68-year-old couple. Yeah, thanks. That's amazing. Yeah, your score was great. So I emailed your husband and to say, what are you doing? So Corey Black is saying, I was curious what parts of MVX are improved by B1. High dose B1 is the most important nutrient of all nutrients. That's my opinion. And it saved my life last year. Even though I had the gas leak for the full year, B1, like, I was 95% better, even though the gas leak was still going on. So, and B1 is probably the most important nutrient for I'm talking micronutrients for plants and animals too. But B1 is important for step 2, which is energy production. And then step O, after step 7, I have O for optimization, and that's adding in nutrients to feed glands. But yeah, it's step 2 and step O. So that's a good question. So Yamani says, imagine when someone dies and we take blood work to check for those things, like MVX. I would like to know if their MVX is high. They've already done that, Yamani, for like 30,000 people. The NIH did that, and there was like 6 cohorts. A cohort means a group. So most of these cohorts were people with cardiovascular disease. One of the cohorts was really healthy, and they took the blood, and then they waited 8 years, for example, or 6 years. And then they're waiting to see, like, what would happen, who dies. And they looked back at their blood and said, oh, look at these 6 factors. They were really high. So if I can show you again that mortality, MVX mortality graph right here. Yep, right here. So you can see the score right here, like at 75, for example. The average age of the people that died with that score was 72.6. The average age for all the people that died in all these cohorts was around like 61. So again, cardiovascular disease here, but it's easily translatable to liver transplant patients, cancer patients, and they've done this. And there's about 18 studies with MVX for the purpose of predicting longevity. How long are they going to live with their disease? And that's what medicine uses MVX for. That's only what they use it for, is to see how long somebody's going to live with the disease that they have. But they have no idea that you could take these 6 factors and actually reverse it. So I have this phenomenal story. I don't know if I said this last time, but I got this guy, and last year, he's been with me a couple years. We detoxed, we got rid of Lyme. He didn't feel any better. So I put him on high doses of B1 last year, and his energy shot way up, and he was super happy about that. But his muscles were still really weak, and he couldn't do a push-up. So we ran MVX, and his amino acids were really, really low. And maybe there's pathology there causing that, but no, he just was deficient in protein. So I put him on a protein powder. And then he told me that he was doing so much better. He was happy all around. He was walking more. He lives in California where the weather's always nice, I guess, unlike Michigan. And yeah, he's like just thrilled. And he added magnesium. He was sleeping better and doing great. And then he decided to add cocoa powder to his coffee. He was doing like butter, like bulletproof coffee, but he decided to go with cocoa. And he started feeling really bad, tired. He looked bad. And then he got his MVX blood draw again for the second time. When he was at the lab, the ladies were like, "What's wrong with you? Are you okay?" He looked terrible. And he felt terrible. He goes, "No, I'm fine. I just didn't sleep well last night." Well, he's trying to figure out like what did I do? What's different? Oh, I added cocoa powder. So he picked up this cocoa powder mix and he's reading the label and it's 22 grams of sugar per tablespoon. So he's adding 22 grams of sugar? Yeah, I know. The problem is he confused cocoa with cacao. Cacao is the basis of chocolate. That's the food of the gods of Central and South America. Cocoa is just sugar. So cacao is fat. Anyways, yeah. And so he quit the cocoa powder, started feeling better. But the point of this is that I'm reading some of the comments. Hi, yeah, it's me. The point of this is that MVX picked up on all this stuff. And it directs you like what's your next step. So I got a buddy in Florida. He's afraid to take MVX because it gives you your mortality, right? He's like the fourth person. He doesn't want to take it because it's scary. And it's like, well, you can run your LDL cholesterol, and that's not scary because it's not part of, it's not like it's not a legitimate risk factor, right? Even though cardiologists say LDL causes heart disease, totally not true. Not true at all. So you can get LDL run all day long and nobody cares. Nobody really cares. I got a patient on he was on a statin drug for 30 years. And in the meantime, he got 11 stents put in his heart. It's like, why were you on a statin drug? Because your LDL was high? It had nothing to do with his heart health. And so now he's a new patient with me, so we're detoxing and getting parasites out. And anyway, so my buddy in Florida, he calls me up last week. He goes, "Yeah, I want to do a parasite cleanse. And what supplements should I take?" And I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, what? You already did that." He goes, "Yeah, but me and my friend, we want to do that." And I said, "Why don't you run MVX? Let it tell you what you need to do. Maybe you need more B1. Maybe you need more mitochondrial enhancement. Maybe you need some reduction of inflammation. Maybe you need some detoxing." So don't just get like an idea and go with it. You got to actually know some real data, Yeah. Corey's talking about 800 milligrams of thiamine hydrochloride. Yeah, that's the water soluble B1. Yeah, and it's a really good product. It's only 5 to 7% absorbable by the body. So in the 1960s, Japanese researchers developed benfotiamine and TTFD. These are two B1s that are fat soluble, and they're more powerful than the water soluble thiamine hydrochloride and or thiamine mononitrate or nitrite. So the benfotiamine and TTFD are what I use 98% of the time. So benfotiamine is for the body, and that's what I needed because of the gas leak, because it was affecting my body, my lungs and my heart. And then the TTFD is for the brain. And so dementia and Alzheimer's and sometimers, we sometimes forget, and it's kind of a joke, but short-term memory loss, that kind of stuff. So, and for a lot of people, I put them on, I have a product, actually it's called Thiomega. I put them on all 3 versions of B1. It's in Thiomega, all 3 of them. So actually there's 4 in Thiomega. So less is more. When will the test be available to Canadians? I don't know. A couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week when I was doing this live, there's somebody made a comment that he works at LabCorp and he's got some contacts. He's going to try to make it available internationally. I've sent a couple of messages to LabCorp to make it available internationally. Will CoQ10 deficiency because of a statin be indicated by this test somehow? Mitochondrial dysfunction is found with this test. So the mitochondria need 22 different nutrients. CoQ10 is one of them. And I have a couple supplements. They have like a whole bunch of different nutrients for the mitochondria, including CoQ10. So I kind of like shotgun it when it comes to mitochondria. If you're on a statin drug, no matter what, you should just be on CoQ10 anyways. Yeah, about to do this test if I'm on the right track with mold detox, right? Yeah, good, Jeff. Lisa, why is your face and eyes so red? Because I got a sunburn yesterday. I'm in Michigan, and it was 60 degrees Memorial Day, Sunday, cold. I'm wearing a jacket, sitting out in the sun. It's kind of deceptive. I always burn every summer. I'm just bad at that. But yeah, I got this sunburn. Just as always get a sunburn. How much does a test cost in Illinois with no insurance? It's I charge $89, and you can get it from the front page of my website, which is the nhcaa.com. I think I can put that in the comment section, nhcaa.com. Upper right corner, just click on MVX test. If you got the same blood type, then you can share. Okay, I'm not sure about that. All right, cool. MVX stand. Okay, I'm looking at TikTok comments. Tub people. Hi, I just tuned in. What does MVX stand for? It stands for Metabolic Vulnerability Index, and it is the soil upon which chronic disease and mortality grows. It measures inflammation and it measures malnutrition according to the researchers that made it, but it also measures infections and inflammation, which I add that in. They don't even know that. So yeah, you're welcome. All right, cool. So what else do I want to say about this? So let me show you this. The way that people measure longevity before MVX looks like this graphic right here. At the very top, it says age. And this bar graph shows the percentage of the math of determining how long somebody's going to live. And age is 28%. Kidney disease is 27%. Heart failure is 16%. You got diabetes, smoking, hypertension. They're all in and around 5%. BMI is at 5%. Cholesterol is at 2%. Triglycerides at 3%. Okay, this is before MVX, and this is from the Lancet, right? I didn't make this stuff up. The Lancet published this. This is after MVX. So MVX is 69% of the math of determining how long you're going to live. Next is age at about 17%. Again, age is not so much a factor anymore. You can control how long you're going to live, but you got to know your MVX score. You got to be able to read the factors, the 6 factors. So Lancet Healthy Longevity 2023 is when this was published. You can look that up, Lancet Healthy Longevity. So, and then you have hypertension, smoking, diabetes, heart failure. They're at like 3%, right? So they're not double digits anymore. Total cholesterol is at 0. HDL is at 0. Prior heart attack is at 0. Family history of heart disease is at 1. So these factors, these risk factors that cardiologists are all about, they're not such a problem. Risk factors will more likely give you a diagnosis than it will give you heart disease. So, I mean, nobody says these things I'm saying. I know it's just wild. I know it's wild what I'm saying. But so here, Rick says autoimmune vasculitis and connective tissue. So autoimmune anything is carnivore diet. Carnivore diet is the best diet for any autoimmune issue. I don't care if it's thyroid, skin, hives, skin, what else? Colitis. You got to at least try the carnivore diet. Lisa says, what types of infection? Any kind of infection. Parasites, mold, candida, virus, bacteria, Lyme. Any kind of infection. When your immune system is active, it shows up in MVX. And then what kind of toxicity? Any kind of toxicity. Metals, chemicals, radioactive elements, plastic, fuels, hydrocarbons, benzenes, triclosan, which is like in your hand sanitizer and soaps. I run a test called Total Tox Burden. It measures 20 metals, 31 chemicals, and 30 mycotoxins from mold. So any of those are toxins, and they all do the same thing. They prevent your mitochondrial cellular membranes to work well, they just disrupt biochemistry. Just think of your body as like a big soup of biochemistry going on, and then you throw in toxins. Just throw it in there. And what does it do? It messes everything up. That's how simple it is. Then you get a diagnosis. So if it messes up your heart, you get heart symptoms. If it messes up your intestines, you get intestinal symptoms. If it messes up your brain, you get brain symptoms. So pull the toxins out and get healthier. It's such a simple concept. But I've had MDs, we're talking 20 years of MDs saying, oh, you don't need a detox. It's a waste of time and money. And I had one MD say, just take a walk around. He goes, eat some fruit and walk around the park. Like, that's not going to detox you. Like, give me a break. All the science behind detoxing, all the science behind heavy metals and chemicals causing terrible health problems, and you're telling your patients to eat fruit and walk around the park? And there's this very liberal, okay, if you're liberal, don't be offended. I'm just going to say, this guy, he's a hostile MD. I did a video about him about 6 weeks ago. He's super hostile, terrible, super smart. And I made a comment about autism. And he pulled my comment. This is on TikTok. He pulled up my comment. And he went on for about 2 minutes. And about 14,000 people saw this. And he just bashed me. And then I started commenting to his video. And he said, don't you have some useless detox products to sell to people? I was like, dude, you're giving people toxic chemicals. They're sick. And you're giving them toxic chemicals. How does that help anybody? Right? Like, all drugs are poisons. The word pharmacology is the study of poisons. Ology is the study. Pharma means poison. Pharmacology, the study of poisons. And even in biblical times, pharmakon in the concordance for the Bible. I'm not a super religious person, but I know my history. So pharmakon is it's poisons. And pharmacists and the whole medical profession in biblical times, it said they're sorcerers, and it's like Wicca. It's that you're practicing things that are deceptive. So when you give somebody a drug and you say, "Oh, this is going to help you," is it really? Run MVX and see if it really helps. Now, if somebody has an antibiotic, if somebody needs an antibiotic, yeah, you might save their life, right? That's cool. But if somebody has ADD and you give them Ritalin, come on now. You got to clean their diet up. You got to clean up the brain. You got to give them B1 for the brain. They got parasites, get the parasites out. So this is like, this is the hill that I stand on. Like this is what I live and die for, right? Drugs are not the answer. We are such a drug burden society. Like, everybody knows about drugs. We have 1 million medical doctors, and they will talk to you about drugs. Oh, are you on a statin drug yet? We'll get you healthy. Here's your statin drug. No. It doesn't work that way. So there's my little rant. Tigress, thank you. This really felt. My son has had too many problems since COVID, and he's only 32 years old. Yeah, COVID is a similar scenario of high inflammation. And Dr. Peter McCullough, who is one of the most cited researchers in PubMed, he's got like over 800 citations. He's developed his own COVID. God, this probably video will be taken down because I'm talking about COVID. But he made a product with nattokinase and other enzymes to reduce inflammation, and by reducing fibrin. So fibrin is the basis of inflammation and thick blood and clots and plaques and scar tissue and mucus and biofilm. Like, anytime that blood gets thick, it's because too much fibrin. So honestly, the most important nutrient for that is lumbrokinase. Lumbrokinase, the enzyme. And I took it back in March, April. I was 2 pills in the morning, empty stomach. I could literally feel not enough blood in my brain. And I was dizzy. So I'm like standing, looking down, and my head was going like this. I could feel this. So I just stopped lumbrokinase. I should go to 1 pill a day, but I was taking 2, and I went to 0. And I do have a genetic issue with clotting, so I maybe should be back on it. But anyways, yeah, it works really, really well. What causes multiple sclerosis? Parasites, question mark, EBV, Epstein-Barr, question mark, leaky gut, molecular mimicry, question mark. My sister and I both have it, wondering how much would show up on MVX. So MS, if you have MS in your 30s or 50s, it's reversible, in my opinion. If you have MS when you're like a teen or earlier, that's different. So how do you reverse it? It's the same thing. I'm going to show you my 7-step blueprint. It's this. It's everything is always this. The chronic illness solution is here in the 7-step blueprint. So there's that Dr. Lee Merritt. She talks about parasites for MS. So parasites are step 4 and 5. So you can get the parasites out, but then you have toxicity. Maybe. So that's step 6. Or you can have deep neurological problems, and that's actually step. Dr. Lee Merritt, technical. And so Lyme disease can be causing deep neurological problems, and that's step 7, intracellular cleansing. So there's a woman named Dr. Elena Frid, F-R-I-D, F as in frog, F-R-I-D. She's in Manhattan. I'm sure her services are not cheap. And she's reversing Parkinson's because she's finding Lyme in the brain and in the central nervous system. So, I know a guy. I was in the Scouts when I was younger, and he was a naturalist. Like, he worked for the park system, and he led the Scout group. And when he was in his 40s and earlier, he had this terrible tremor. So he's eating, with a fork or whatever, and just shaking. And he got his mercury fillings taken out, and he was better. So yeah, toxicity there. But then it got worse again. Now he's 80 something. He's got full blown Parkinson's. And I just thought, like, a month ago, I was like, oh my God, Lyme. He's out in the woods all the time, hiking, biking, canoeing. And I'm sure all it takes is one tick bite. It just takes one. And those organisms grow inside your body. And it's been growing in his body for 50, 60, 70 years. Who knows? But anyways, Dr. Elena Fred kind of has verified the reversal of Parkinson's by getting Lyme out of the central nervous system, which is fascinating. So yeah, so less is more. Everything that you mentioned, yeah, all of it. So that's why you want to do the 7-step blueprint. So I wrote a book about it. If you can see this over my head, right here on TikTok, right? It's that blue book. It's called Optimal Health. You can find it on Amazon Kindle, and I go over it that way. In the book. Okay, cool. Okay, what do you know about food that's been? I can't say the word. Okay. So, okay, on TikTok, ask me another question. Okay. So let me show you the next graph. This is the 6 factors. I can go over these pretty quickly. So you have 3 indices: metabolic vulnerability index, then the inflammation vulnerability index, and then the metabolic malnutrition index. So those are the 3 indices. And you're not trying to lower or raise them directly. You use them as education to figure out the 6 factors, and those you lower or raise directly. So glyc A is infection and inflammation. Small isotopes particle number, this toxicity. You want that to be 19 to 22. You want the glyc A to be below 300. And then citrate, you want that to be around 2, 2.0. Citrate kind of bounces around. And then the valine, leucine, and isoleucine, those are, Elena Fred, Grace from Texas. And then the branched chain amino acids, the last 3, those are malnutrition indicators. So B1 deficiency, also protein deficiency. So I have a relatively new patient who she had C. diff in the fall. And so she's got some remaining symptoms: hair loss, anemia, digestive problems. And she's blaming the C. diff, and she came in with her brother. And we ran MVX. She's got really low amino acids, like crazy low. I said, you're malnourished. You need more protein. And her brother was in the room and said, yeah, and stop eating sugar. He goes, you don't eat enough meat, and you're eating too much sugar. So, and it kind of like changed her viewpoint. It changed, obviously, because she thought it was a remaining C. diff from the fall. No, change your diet up, eat more meat. So that's probably one of the greatest things about this test is it teaches you where and when to pivot. So if you're you know detoxing, and okay, let me tell you another story. I got a patient, relatively new, with a lot of chronic infections in her mind. She's on Lyme protocols and parasite protocols, and on our second visit she started asking me about a variety of topics related to organisms. So organisms in the mouth, using a water pick with hydrogen peroxide. We talked for 5, 6, 7 minutes. I was like, wait a minute. Your glyc is 237. It's one of the lowest I've ever seen out of 330 people. Glyc A is infection and inflammation. Why are we even talking about this? All the work you've been doing for the last, 5 years, it's good. You've been doing a great job. You can see it with glyc A being so low. Now let's pivot because your small HL particle number is too low. It needs to come up. So so I said, we got to start talking about detoxing. And she had no questions about detoxing because she's never studied detoxing. She's never taken detox products. Anytime she's like studying something online or reading a book or talking to a friend, it's always about infections and Lyme and bacteria and viruses. But the detox part was never part of any of her conversations. She never thought about it. But MVX told us, start detoxing. So yeah, that's a great thing to do. Let me turn this off. Oh my gosh, my alarm's going off. Okay, sorry about that. So other people, similar situation, they think that they need to detox, but yet they're malnourished because their diet's not good enough. Jeff says, how does MVX relate to psychiatry disorders? I don't know. Like every disease, every chronic disease, whether it's mental or physical or whatever, there's these 6 underlying factors are the most important factors. So you want to straighten them all up. Now, regarding diet, there's some fantastic new research I'm saying in the last 3 to 5 years on the ketogenic diet. And I was thinking about this today as I'm driving home. With different diets. I'm a big fan of the keto diet. I'm a big fan of animal-based diets, keto, carnivore. And so the keto diet is so good for the brain and psychiatric issues because it's a high-fat diet and your brain's made out of fat. Now, the carnivore diet is so good for autoimmune diseases because it's a high-protein diet, also fat. But the protein is really needed for the immune system. So what's the immune system made out of? It's made out of your skin. It's made out of your lymphatic vessels, nodes. It's made out of white blood cells. All these things are made out of protein. So the carnivore diet's a high protein diet. So anyways, without knowing anything more, when you just say the word psychiatric disorders, I'm just thinking definitely carnivore diet. But then look at the rest of the 7-step blueprint, Jeff. So you got like the carnivore diet, keto diet is step 1. It's only step 1 out of 7 steps. And that person might need some mitochondrial support, drainage, and then start detoxing parasites, clean out the gut, and then detox, get rid of the mold, get rid of mycotoxins, get rid of Lyme disease. So it could be anywhere along these seven factors, plus O for optimization. Have you heard of Ray Peat's diet of meat, fruit, and dairy? No. I mean, I've heard of his name many times. I've never read any of his work. I just got to the point where, I read Weston A. Price. I read all kinds of like, low carb, high meat diets and stuff. And, and you can go into the weeds and try to. The point is, when somebody's eating processed food, they need to get off the processed food, get off the bread, eat meat, fruit, and vegetables. So if Ray Peat says eat dairy, that's fine too, I guess, unless you have parasites. So Robert Williams, newly diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I actually have a patient now. He's been with me for 10 years. He just started getting Parkinson's. And he's a former bricklayer. He just retired like 2 years ago. So now he's sitting at home. He's not like lifting things anymore. And he's starting to slow down his reflexes. He's eating food really slowly, and he's got tunnel vision. So he's looking and staring at a certain thing, and he's just staring. And he realizes, oh my God, I'm just staring. And it's hard for him to break out of it. So early Parkinson's. Before this, I've never had any attempt. Like, there's no way I would have tackled Parkinson's. But he's actually getting better. His MVX score was 45. Now it's 40. And this tunnel vision thing is going away. And his leg muscles are still weak, but his reflexes are coming back. His nervous system's coming back. So, again, it's all the 7 steps. So, animal-based guru cousins. Isn't natural sugar and fruit and dairy needed for glucose in the brain? Maybe. Yeah. So when I was hardcore carnivore in 2019, I ate fruit once a month. So I had like 5 apples or 5 bananas in one day. Otherwise, it was all meat. Going to the gym twice a week. So yeah, like if you want the sugar from fruit, go for it. Yeah, totally fine. Totally fine to do that. Ray P would say there isn't a Ray P diet. Yeah. All right, cool. Oh my God, Tigress for truth. I do high protein keto, and it works for me. Got off 13 medications and reclaimed my health. That's awesome. Yeah. There's a new study that just came out, and it's on people with diabetes and pre-diabetes. 60 people. They followed them for a year. They put them on an exercise program plus a high protein diet. High protein. 25% of the calories are from protein. How is that a high protein diet? 50% of the calories are carbohydrates. What? That's not how it works. That's not a high protein diet. But it's higher than what they think is a a normal protein diet. They think 10% is normal protein or 15%. Anyways, 87% reversed their diabetes. Now, I don't believe it's sustainable because they kept their calories like 500 calories too low, below what they should have. But if you increase your protein significantly, way beyond 25%, I've done that with patients, and they're eating 900 calories a day for 3-4 months, and it's totally fine, and they're not hungry. So a real high protein diet is sustainable, and you can lose weight on that, like carnivore diet. Yeah, Corey says 30 grams of 30 gram per meal of protein, at least for me. 30 grams, so 3 meals, so 90 grams of protein. Yeah, that's really good. So I've told a lot of people about a website called dietdoctor.com/satiety. And what they talk about is higher protein and then low carb and low fat. And so when you look at like native tribes, they're eating bushmeat, and which is like 4% protein, like monkeys and stuff, or even like rabbits, deer, buffalo, 3% 4% fat, 3% fat. Now beef is 40% fat. So, real wildlife, like rabbits and squirrels, they're like 3% fat. The rest is protein. So that's our native diet, not these steaks that are 40% fat. So that's how you get really lean, is by eating high protein, low carb, and low fat combined. And it's very satisfying. Animal-based guru, are natural parasite remedies such as wormwood, black walnut, hull better than things like menben and parental prosweight? How do you say that? Yeah, I think that the supplements that I carry are better than the medications. And the supplements that I carry come from cellcore.com, CELLCORE, cellcore.com. Before that, I used wormwood. I used black walnut hulls. I've used, tons of oregano, garlic. They don't work like we would hope. And back in 2007, 2009, I would have people eliminate, poop out a parasite like this long. And it took them weeks to do it. And then we were like high-fiving, thinking that they were done. When the truth is, they had a ton more parasites. And I didn't know it until 2017 when Cellcore came out with their products, Para 1 and Para 2. And that's when people get rid of parasites every day, like dozens every day. So these drugs don't get rid of worms. The supplements do, though. Is biocidin a good broad spectrum for a clean cleanse? It is. Biocidin's fantastic. Yeah, I'm such a fan of that, and it's good for step 5 and 6. I'm sorry, 5 and 7 in my 7-step blueprint. And I just have a guy last week. I talked to him. He got rashes on his hands. Right? Sometimes rashes on the hands those are harder to get rid of than a rash like here on the abdomen or on the face. When it's on the hands, it can be harder. But biocidin has improved those rashes 50 to 60% in I think it's been 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. So biocidin is great. And that biocidin recipe's been around for 30 years. And they just got bought by Cellcore. Biocidin did. And so I'm confident that the recipe will stay the same. What do I think about GLP-1 peptides to promote autophagy? Never really looked into that. I'm detoxing worms. It's been 2 months straight, Lauren says. So yeah, just keep going. You gotta keep going. All right, cool. All right, I want to talk about this Collar Up ebook. I wrote this ebook about it's called Collar Up Focal Infections Causing Systemic Disease. So the name of the book, though, to be legal, it says discover why organisms in your head could be the root cause of your chronic disease. So we're talking about organisms in your ears, sinuses up here, tonsils, teeth, mouth, saliva, nose, and these organisms create toxins and mucus, which leave the face and they go into the body. They leave the face via the blood, the lymphatic system, or they go down the back of your throat, or they're in your mouth and you swallow it. Those are the 4 ways that these things, mucus, toxins, go into your body. And then they cause disease. They cause cancer. They cause plaquing in the arteries. They cause arthritis. They cause GERD and digestive problems and bloating. And they create an environment in your body where parasites can thrive. So that's why I wrote this book. And Dr. Weston A. Price, I don't know if I have that book handy. He did a lecture back in 1916 or 17, and I have this lecture in a booklet, and he's talking about this scenario. And even in the medical research, it goes back into 1800s, where clinicians discovered that these organisms can cause problems in the body, especially infected teeth. So if you had a root canal done, or if you have wisdom teeth pulled out, those pockets, they could now be infected. And the way that you find out is by doing a cone beam, which is a 3D x-ray of your mouth. Not all dentists have the cone beam, and that's how you can find an infected jaw. So those are terrible. So we had a patient once with arthritis, and he swished with diluted hydrogen peroxide, and all of his arthritis went away by swishing, because it's in his mouth. He's swallowing, a pint or 2 pints of saliva per day, and it's affecting his fingers. So you can find this ebook on my website under courses. Let me get rid of this. I've had 3 women with constipation, lifelong constipation, and I had them use a water pick with hydrogen peroxide diluted, and it got rid of their constipation just by using the water pick here at the mouth. And then it changed their saliva. It changed, the microbiome of the oral mucosa, and it fixed their gut because it's swallowing saliva, right? So you're thinking north to south. So it's kind of a big deal. And so there's no lab researcher, there's no scientist at a pharmaceutical company that can figure that out. Only a holistic physician or clinician can figure that out just by observation and seeing, and especially the dentists, especially from 100 years ago, those dentists were more holistic. Well, I should take that back. There are amazing dentists right now. And there's actually 2 dental societies that look at the mouth causing systemic disease. So I'm going to take back what I said. There are amazing dentists that see this now, but we need a lot more, like all of them. We also need medical doctors and other holistic clinicians like chiropractors like myself to look from down here up, right? So if somebody has like a hiatal hernia, acid reflux, and all that stuff, is it caused by the teeth, right? And then the dentist would look at the teeth and say, is this causing any problems down here? So any thoughts on methylene blue? Yeah, I don't carry it, and I'm not as impressed about methylene blue as other people are, because I have herbs that work way better in my opinion. So I'm a fan of the herbs. Have you got any opinions on Dr. Andrew Campbell's work on mold? He says the O test is not reliable. Right. So yeah, Andrew Campbell actually had a consultation with his associate because I had a mold toxicity problem from 2016. So it was about a year ago. I contacted them, and they got the mymycolab.com where you can run a lab test. Mymycolab.com. Urine sample for, blood for mycotoxins. And mine came back pretty good. I mean, I would give it like, if 100 was bad and 0 was really, really good, it'd be like a 20 or maybe 30. So it's pretty good. And and he uses itraconazole to kill mold. And my philosophy has been to use binders to detox mycotoxins. And he'll say, if it takes you years to get rid of the mold because you're using binders for mycotoxins, then you're doing it wrong. Well, it took me 7 years. He's telling me I did it wrong, but yet I have all the labs to show my progress over time, the mold going away. And but he used itraconazole, let's say 6 months or 1 year, and then you're fixed. But during my consultation, his associate said itraconazole could cause heart problems. Well, that's where all my symptoms were. Not all, but I had terrible pain right at my heart, right there, because of the mold. And so when I first started using binders, this pain got terrible. And I knew it was working. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's going to work. It's working. And sure enough, it did. It just took a while. But if I were to use itraconazole, I could have heart issues. Like, ugh, you don't want that. So yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to debate him. But he's published like 50 research articles, and I've published 0. So he would probably dismiss me and wouldn't even want to try to debate me because he's like one of the world's leading experts on itraconazole. Oh, the other thing about binders is that there was a study done in 2013 that he references, and he said on stage, and I was in the audience, this study shows binders don't work for mycotoxins from mold. But the point is, the ones I use were created in 2017. So this study was 2013. He's got old studies, right? Now these binders I use come from Cellcore Biosciences. And they have quantum physicists on staff in their production of their binders, their new product development. Who's got quantum physicists developing supplements? Well, Cellcore. And so they manipulate the carbons and the hydrogens, and they add electrons, and they add, increase or decrease the hydrogens and oxygen. So yeah, they're making these binders go after mycotoxins or chemicals or radiation or metals or something, which is fantastic, fascinating. So there's my thoughts on Andrew Campbell. How do you get rid of hidden tooth infection deep in the teeth or in root canal? You got to go to a really good dentist, and they pull that tooth out, and then they shoot you up with ozone right into the jaw. That's how you do that. Texas commander says feeling more tired after 1 month of 250 milligrams of vitamin B1. So Texas, that means that you have some other issues going on that needs to be addressed. If you run MVX Plus, it'll point you in the right direction. Maybe toxicity, parasites, infection, inflammation, amino acid deficiency. So usually when people take B1, they can feel worse maybe for 5 days. And I do have one person, she felt worse for 3 months. And then after 3 months, suddenly all of her symptoms were instantly gone. And her main symptom was left arm numbness. And she had it for like 2 decades. So she started B1 and then felt worse for a couple, 3 months, and then boom, gone. It was the best thing she's ever done. How far is away from Cellcore from where you're at? Cellcore is a national company. They're based out of Oklahoma right now in order for shipping to be central in the United States. How much hydrogen peroxide in your water flosser? I don't remember. Sorry, I don't have that memorized. Calciphylaxis? Dennis, I don't know what calciphylaxis is. Okay, I'll keep going and take the test. Yeah, good. All right, cool. So, what else to say about MVX? So I have, let me think about this. The citrate, so there's these 6 factors, right? It's a finite number of factors, and if they're too high or too low, there's a finite number of things to do, right? It's not infinite. And so when I teach doctors how to run it and what to do afterwards, my lesson is like 3 hours long. That's it, right? It's not even a full weekend. So, yeah. So hopefully it'll catch on across the country as fast as possible. So right now I'm making a variety of PowerPoint presentations for non-doctors like you, also for doctors, also for specific supplement companies, because all these different supplement companies have their own products that fit into the 7-step blueprint to optimal health. So I'm trying to take over all of medicine and bankrupt drug companies. That's what I'm doing. So Rock About Us 3 says, you were right when you said that panic attacks were the result of lactic acidosis, too much sugar. Yeah, panic attacks, like, think of it, this is such an interesting topic. Panic attacks, anxiety, shortness of breath. The word anxiety means tightening. So tightening is like, okay, your lungs are tight because your muscles are tight because your heart's beating faster and you feel tightness in the chest. Now for some people it's tightness in the stomach or tightness in the neck. And they say I have anxiety. I say where? And they'll say the back of the neck because the muscles are tightening up. It's not a psychiatric issue. So when I had it was from toxic mold. 2016, I had bad anxiety. It was not fun. I didn't want to drive because I thought something bad would happen while I was driving. So when I learned about lactic acidosis, which is basically now known as mitochondrial dysfunction, what happens is there's not enough oxygen in the blood, therefore not enough oxygen to the cells, and the blood is also toxic. So the cells can't dump waste into the blood to get carried away. So you have, wait, TikTok's trying to shut me off. Okay, I'm back on TikTok. Okay, so now so picture that. Blood is toxic and hypoxic, not enough oxygen. So here's waste, here's W for waste, O for oxygen. Too much waste, not enough oxygen. Like this. Whereas you want it to be this way, lots of oxygen, little waste. So you got this going on. What happens is the arteries dilate so that you can get more oxygen. You want more oxygen into the cells, so arteries dilate. That's physiological. They knew this in 1932. And now you have dilated arteries, so the heart starts beating faster to try to push the blood through these dilated arteries. It doesn't always work because you're just sitting there. You're not moving your legs. You're not moving the blood flow. So now you have capillary engorgement. So the little teeny tiny arteries that feed the cells, they become engorged and you have stagnation of circulation. I'm telling you the description of lactic acidosis. This is the most common mechanism of chronic disease. So stagnation of circulation, the cells are starving of oxygen, they're toxic with waste, and they start to die, cell death from circulatory stagnation due to capillary engorgement, due to not enough oxygen, too much waste, due to toxins like mold or metals or chemicals or infection or mucus or too much fibrin in the blood and you got thick blood. So then cell death equals tissue death equals glandular death or organ death, which equals body death. That's how people die. You just reverse engineer it. So everything I just said, do it backwards. So you detox, you increase your oxygen with B1. B1's the best supplement to increase oxygen in the blood, and it gets the oxygen from the blood into the cells. They knew that in 1933 or 1929, actually. Dr. Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for that in 1929. Every hospital should be using B1 on basically every patient. It's nuts. I have a patient whose sister was a nurse in the 1960s, and she worked in the ER. People would come in all messed up, and they would just go boom, and they'd do a B1 shot in people's arms and send them on their way. Like, that's, that's the best you could do, right? Now they give them, and now they give them, whatever drug. So, all right. Instagram just kicked me off, and I'm losing my voice. How long have I been talking for? Okay, I gotta go. Plus, it's my bedtime. I've been talking for 1 hour, 50 seconds. All right, cool. I gotta go. So, probably Sunday night next time. I'll see you. Okay, thanks. I gotta go. Bye.